Last time on Zero to Hero, our boy Sil got started with raiding and is juggling a handful of collections to get some critical quality of life and gear. Will he be able to straighten things out and get things done? Find out that and much more on this episode of Zero to Hero. First things first, let me apologize. My whole family has been sick, so if this recap of last week isn't the most enthusiastic, know that I've been going through it on the in real life side of things. That being said, since we started Envoy 1 last week, the critical wing is Wing 1. I still need to get some stuff done in the Twisted Castle for the Aurelium Mirror, but besides that, I've been steadily working on getting the charged quartz and the provisioner tokens for the Skyscale collection. I've also been devoting some significant time towards the End of Dragons primary storyline, which unlike Heart of Thorns, I'll actually have to finish. Primarily for the End of Dragon Strikes, but more importantly for the globalization mastery in the Arborstone revitalization track, which outside of the Jadebot resurrection skill is really the only mastery line that actually matters, so we can start collecting the weekly antique summoning stones. The thing about most endgame items in Guild Wars 2, be it legendary weapons, legendary armor, or anything like that, most of it becomes trivial with patience. So while yes, it is a large gold sink if you intend on forcing the items, if you collect them as you go and work on other objectives, then it all just kind of happens. There are only a few items that take gold, like the Mystic Rune Stones and stuff like that, but we will actually be getting around to crafting legendaries here pretty soon. But getting mounts right now is more important, and in End of Dragons, I am definitely feeling the lack of Skyscale, especially in Caning City. Fortunately, the story is pretty quick and it's not that bad. End of Dragons isn't the most annoying story, but there are still some delays of do these events or do this heart, and it does feel a lot better than Pseudo, because Pseudo just sends you to rift after rift after rift. Even though End of Dragons in essence does the same thing with the events and the hearts, it is not as monotonous. I do feel that End of Dragons requires mounts for the hero points pretty heavily. You do unlock the Springer kind of late in the story, and I'll definitely be in a better spot once I finish up the Skyscale. I'm looking forward to doing Path of Fire. I only have a few more days required for the charged quartz before I can finish a new friend, and I'll be basically just focusing on that primarily. To be honest, from this playthrough, I know I am jumping around a lot in the timeline, the story timeline. I went from Pseudo to Heart of Thorns to End of Dragons and so on, but for a new player who's watching this, don't feel like you're missing out by just playing through an order. I find myself needing to go back or unlock specific maps or having to jump to a story episode way out of the way. For a new friend, I either need to do a Claw of Jormag or I need to unlock Bitterfrost Frontier or a Crack in the Ice for the Skyscale of Ice collection. So I have to jump around to complete the collection anyway. So if you just play through, it'll all be very easy for you. Unfortunately, it's a little late for me to do that on this account. However, we did make some good progress towards developing a daily gold making cycle now that I have all the strike locations, raids, and fractals unlocked. I might actually do some ascended crafting just to finish these gear sets off, since we have like a month left on the Wizard's Vault reset. I'm not sure if it's completely worth it in terms of efficiency, but it would get us to full ascended gear quicker. Just a side note, I did do all of the SAB annual achievements for the Wizard's Vault. I'm not a big SAB guy. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I've done the tribulation mode stuff, not on this account, but on my main. And so I just went through and unlocked the annual for the Astral Acclaim. And I also got a retro forged rifle, which we'll be using in the Chrono Heal build. I just wanted to say I did do some SAB. I'm not going to really cover it too much in this playthrough. Every other content creator and their mom has been making SAB videos for the last 2 weeks. Besides the story stuff and PvE stuff, I actually got into a few PvP matches, and despite the rumors of the game mode being dead, it only took a few minutes to queue up in unranked. SPVP is actually quite fun. I haven't played any kind of PvP since I did the Ascension years ago because the reward tracks aren't really that lucrative, but if you aren't worried about min-maxing your gold per hour, then SPVP is a really fun game mode, and I must warn you that it is a toxic adjacent environment. I personally don't get overly attached to competitive rankings. I was a longtime League of Legends player, so I'm used to the worst of the worst, but just know that in the game mode, people do AFK, people do rage, and ultimately, if you do go into it trying to have some fun, trying to get good fights or test out a build you made, you can get a lot of enjoyment out of it, even if you aren't just racking up win after win after win. I'll definitely try to be including more PvP matches on this account until we can get into ranked gameplay, and I may even do the Ascension collection on this account as a testament to becoming a true hero, because some of you guys did suggest that PvP is needed to be classified as a hero, so we'll see how far I get with that. As far as last week's question, my answers are probably pretty obvious. For the first one, I think that raids are great. The only drawback of raids is the weekly lockout, and to be honest, if they were daily content, they would be seeing a lot more action. Regardless of if you are working on legendary armor or not, there are valuable rewards in the terms of raw gold, ascended items, and the versatile magnetite shard currency that can be pretty much used for anything. I think that the reason for their lack of popularity is largely associated with the commander having to coordinate everything and people having anxiety about getting into that game mode. For the most part, whenever I run groups, I don't post KP requirements or anything. If anything, I'll post experienced in the tag just so people understand that it's not a training run. But sometimes we get newbies and that's fine. And even with the right team comp, it's pretty easy to run even if you are running with newbies. So if you have a commander's tag and you want to get into raids, just look up some other videos on group comps and focus on the week that has the emboldened mode, which will basically make it super easy to complete in terms of DPS and healing, and it'll allow your group to solely focus on the mechanics of the fight. As far as the least valuable mastery, I think that it's between Ancient Magics and Dragon Slayer, which some of you guys actually responded to saying that those were the most useless. I think Dragon Slayer is probably the most useless just because it's about dragon response missions, and Ancient Magics is only useful in a handful of maps. I think the map specific masteries are a bad design altogether. The only real X-Pack that has 100% valuable masteries is Path of Fire, because they are all mount related. Though I do think that the Crystal Champion one is kind of suspect. I don't really feel like it needed to be added to the game. They should have just given it to you for free. It didn't need to be a mastery line. For the questions this week, the first one, what is your least favorite NPC? Is it like the guy in Arborstone talking about guano? Is it a person who gets bugged in metas or says something dumb? Who's your least favorite NPC who just annoys you? And why is it Bram? It doesn't need to be Bram. That's a joke. And for the second question, what content do you feel is entirely underrated by the community? Is there a secret farm? Is there an event chain that you feel should be played more? Depending on what you guys say, if it actually sounds fun, I might actually highlight some of these ones through this playthrough. I might actually go experience it. This popped in my head because I actually played the Clean Up the Swamp flute event where you need to use flute notes to like clear corruption out of a swamp, and I thought it was a cool concept, but man, it was annoying, and I see why I never played this. I did not like it. I wish that they just let you F to interact, because you had to learn how to play different songs to like clear up the swamp gunk and then go play different songs to like clear up the trees, and it was too much. Like, whoever designed that at ArenaNet, you obviously don't play video games. Nobody wants to do that. Now let's get into the comment section and review some of your thoughts from last week. Zuriel says that he loves raids, but he also asks if I will be doing a wing 2 guide in the future, and to be honest, I did intend on going through all the wings. I will likely be making some more raid guides in the future, however the timeline is unknown. For those of you who don't know, I will have some more free time available later this year. I will say that raid content is something that I'm tracking, especially since most of the guides to this point use older strategies and they still work. It would be nice to see some modern takes on raids and keep those in the public eye. Right now, it's taking all that I have to ensure that the Zero to Hero series can be uploaded regularly, but once my life gets a little bit more regular later this year, I'll be shooting for a twice a week upload cycle, so a new video about every 3 to 4 days. Anything more than that is pushing it as a hobbyist content creator. He also asked about alts, which I will be getting into in the future. Right now I'm focused focusing on getting all the builds and gear I need for this Mesmer, and we will be seeing some action on the alts here pretty soon. I'm initially going to just park them, but they will be coming out eventually for stuff later in the series. My man Daygrath mentioned that doing quick heals in raids was pretty stressful, and yeah man, that is the reason why I play heal supports in raids most of the time. And honestly, that role is the most fun role in raids. You get saddled with all the mechanics, which is cool because if you know what you're doing, you can just hard carry the entire squad. But if you aren't really used to it, you're essentially just juggling a bunch of things, and if you drop any of them, your whole squad is F. So, I mean, it's easier if you don't play that critical role, but it's more fun if you do take on that challenge. And yeah, after you figure out build optimization in raids and everything, open world is cake, story is cake, everything else is just a breeze, just because you have a better understanding of the game and how to actually be good. My man Goki came out with a hot take vouching for the strike model, which I personally disagree with, but I feel that the content that takes about an hour or so to complete is a good baseline. MMOs that have a million things that each take 2 minutes can be very tedious, whereas metas like Dragon's End that can take 2 hours to complete are too strung out. So a raid wing that can be blasted in about an hour from an LFG listing to completion is a good middle ground. I think that getting involved with a static or a partial static and you just fill DPS players, you'd find raids a lot more welcoming and easier to complete. It's not uncommon to actually complete wings 1, 2, 3 in about 2 hours or less with pugs, but if you're not used to playing at that high level, I could see how raid after raid after raid, it can be really draining. And strikes are good in my opinion. I think some of them are kind of boring. I personally feel like Whisper of Jormag and Bone Skinner are kind of the gold standard for normal mode strike mission difficulty, just because they're quick, they're to the point, and they have a lot of mechanics that you just like blast through them. And if you got it down, they're over quick, and if you don't got it down, then you die, you know? So I think that Cosmic Observatory CM is a good gold standard for strike CM difficulty, just because it is doable with pugs. It's not going to take you, 8 days of grinding 4 hours a day to get the clear. You could just kind of get in there, do a couple of pulls, figure it out, and get it done. I know that that is setting the bar extremely low, and the hardcore community is going to be butthurt about that take, but realistically, man, I'm a grown man, and if I want to do something hard, I'd re-enroll in my electrical engineering program instead of min-maxing some portal strategy for a CM clear on a game. I'm not going to spend that amount of time on a video game for something as simple as a boss clear. Mattias noticed that he was in the second wing 1 clear, which is the one that I commanded, and he didn't notice that I was there, which is good because it's going to show that I'm really doing what I'm saying and I'm being low-key and I'm not using any cheap tricks or advantages to play this game. I'm just going through the motions as any other player would. No streamer advantage or content creator privileges, just some sick gaming and lies in chat. ARJ7040 says that he confirms that Heal Chrono sucks eggs in 100 CM, which I will be evaluating myself once we get there. I think that it would be all right, and I could test it out on my main account, but I mean, what's the fun in that? Worst comes to worst, I'll break out the old Heal Herald on an alt and knock it out with that. I just wanted to highlight that my man is out here doing the Lord's work. Heal Chrono in Fractal CMs. My man Sidon said he does not have time for raids, and yeah, they are pretty time consuming, and I feel like it does hold a lot of people back in Guild Wars 2. It's a really casual game overall, so it makes sense that anything that takes a significant amount of time will be out of reach for most people. And to be honest, I feel the same about my play sessions sometimes. Sometimes they're like an hour and a half, sometimes they're like 40 minutes. It all depends on the day, so I feel you, brother. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this video. Thanks to everybody who commented. Like always, a special thanks to all my subscribers up to this point. I told you that at 3K I'd be doing something special for you guys, and I still plan to do that. So if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing. I should be feeling better this week. But anyways, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.